What's up, everybody? Welcome. It's Saturday. It's the half hour of horror with me, Aaron McLean, my host as usual. Oh, hey, it's Chase. What's going on, buddy?
Doing good. How are you doing, Aaron? I'm so excited for today's episode.
This is
one
like
of my
this is your jam, man.
this is one of my favorite horror franchises. I have the 10th anniversary theatrical poster re-release behind me.
Heck
I
yeah.
have Billy right beside me. No stack of DVDs today. Instead, a box set. So
Hey, we have a very special guest with us today to answer the question, do you want to play a game? Jesse Towns, star of Saw the Musical. Welcome back, man. You've been on before, but I think this might be your first time on the half hour of horror video edition.
Yes, video edition. I did video with the when we did the Santa Claus short on Christmas, over Christmas.
That was so awesome, man.
I was gonna say, because last time you were on here, you had transformed yourself into Freddy Krueger. I became Santa Claus, and you and I just had this knockout, brutal brawl with each other. Now you're here. We're gonna have a gentlemanly conversation about the Saw franchise.
yes. I'm not sure how gentlemanly it'll be, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Gentlemanly as it can get.
So to start, before we get into the movies, I want to talk about this amazing Saw musical, because for people who don't know, LA has been doing these like underground musicals. They had Point Break the musical. There was an awesome Back to the Future musical, and now Saw the musical is out and getting a lot of great press. There's a splatter zone. There's blood spraying all over the crowd. Please tell us a little bit about this amazing project. How did you get involved? And tell us a little bit about what is Saw the Musical for those who can't even imagine this.
Oh man, to be honest, I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't imagine it when it first kind of came across me. And so it started in New York a couple years ago. It started off Broadway. And they were planning on having it run for 6 months, I think, something like that. And then it just like went bonkers and everybody fucking loved it. And so they've been running it now like I think they're extended through January of 27 now. And they extended ours. So this is part of it's kind of confusing because there's kind of three branches of it. There's the New York branch, there's the LA branch, and then there's the national touring branch of it. And it's all offshoots of the same kind of it's all the same musical. It's just offshoots of the same thing that started in New York. And so the way it started was this guy, Cooper Jordan, who is the executive producer on it, one of the executive producers on it. He went to his sister, who is a screenwriter. Her name is Zoe. And he said, I would love to do a Saw musical. And she was like, okay, great. I'm going to go put together a script. She went and wrote this script in 2 fucking weeks. Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to curse. She wrote this.
Sure,
yeah.
Yeah.
She wrote this banger of a script. And so they went and they put it up. And the way that you put up musicals is you put up just like a staging of it where everyone's kind of sitting there talking and they're not actually running it through. And that's when Stephanie Rosenberg, who is one of the main producers and also the director of it, she goes around to every single one of the cities that they're doing it in and directs everybody. She was like, Cooper, this is a hit. We got to get this thing going. And so they did. And so now that was a year and a half ago. And so now it's been running for 2 years. Hey guys. But it's crazy because when it first came to me, the casting director kind of reached out, said she thought I'd be a good part for Gordon, our lovely friend, Dr. Lawrence Gordon. Yeah. And so the song they had me audition with was, of course, the song where I'm sawing my foot off. And the good news is I get to saw my foot off every week, baby. And if you're in that splatter zone, you get to have my blood all over you every single week. It's crazy, dude. It's really, really wild. It's a parody, so it is obviously a huge spoof on everything. And we basically go through the entirety of the events of the first movie, but we add a little gay love story in there, in fact. And you can probably guess who the two lovebirds are, myself and Adam Stanheight.
Oh, I was going to say Billy the Puppet.
No, the funny thing is on Saw Twitter, because of course, like on Twitter, there's like certain, of course, there's horror Twitter, which there's like then there's like Scream Twitter, Halloween Twitter, and then there's like Saw Twitter. Like Saw Twitter for years have been shipping Adam and Lawrence together. So it's cool that now we get this play that finally does that.
Dude, it's so funny. It's so funny because like it is two guys stuck in a bathroom together. Like, of course it's going to become a gay love story. And then dude, the audience just goes, because a little spoiler alert, maybe or maybe not, we do end up kissing. And the audience just goes crazy, dude. It's a very, very, very fun show. It's a really fun show.
I love it. Any show that has a splash zone gets my thumbs up. I've seen Evil Dead the musical several times now, and it is so fun to get in the splash zone for that. And they just like go just the pit, the secret trap door pit just starts spraying blood out of it. And like, if you don't get hit, it's a bummer. Like you're covered in the poncho and just getting doused. It's great.
That's so awesome. I did not know that existed. I have to catch that sometime.
It's been running a long time. You can actually like buy the album. It has great songs like What the Fuck Was That? And one of my favorites is one of the Deadites says something and he's like, wait, I got a line that moves me out of the chorus. I'm now a lead Deadite. I now have a role in the, and then he gets killed immediately. But he has a whole song about it first, how he's like risen from the ranks, from being the background, from being in the chorus. So I want to find the music for it, because they haven't like released this on DVD. It's not like out on Spotify, but I really want to hear the music for this, because I am a big musical nerd, believe it or not.
Dude, I love
all that stuff.
The music is surprisingly really, really beautiful. When I first came across it, I was I don't know what I was expecting, because I've never seen anything like this. And then I can't remember who. I'm horrible, and I can't remember who actually wrote the music, but it's really, really nice. It's like the love story is actually really, really cute. It's really nice.
So how long does your run go to?
So we have two guys who are playing Gordon. We have a guy named Reagan Osborne who plays Gordon on Sundays, and I play him on Mondays. We only have two shows a week over at the Hudson Theaters. But we are going through December 31 right now. And there's a talk of it extending even further. So it's going on for a while. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy. Actually, we did an industry night, and that was my opening night. And we did an industry night, and I hung out with Kevin. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Gruyter. He did
Gruyter. Yeah.
Gruyter, yes. Yeah. Hung out with him. And he was talking about how he and James and Lee just like had to put this together. I think initially, and they gave him either 1 or 2 weeks initially, and then Carrie, and they were working in like one of their apartments and basically living there for the time. And then Carrie Elwes stopped by and looked at it, and he convinced the studio. He was like, these guys, just give them 1 more week and you're going to have something fucking gold. And so they did, and boom, there it was. But I mean, a post-production process in 2 to 3 weeks is wild.
That's wild. Patrick Spencer and Anthony DeAngelis are the ones who wrote the music.
Says. Great. Perfect. Thank you.
I mean, so like let's dive into the movies now and get into it. So the 2004 Saw comes out. I saw this in Boston with my wife, and we walked out because she couldn't handle. It wasn't even the torture; it was the shaky cam. She was like, "It's too shaky," and it's one of the things that is like indicative of the 2000s. So I was bummed, because I was like, damn, this movie's like crazy. And come back to it years later. I came back to it like a year later and get to watch the movie. And sure enough, the first movie is a solid, just game changer of horror. There is before Saw, and then there's after Saw. It is literally a knot in the timeline for cinema, because it gives birth to what we called the torture porn genre. And there's nothing like it. Obviously, they've made all these sequels after it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sequels, please. Oh my gosh. And a lot of people copied it. Saw 1, just a banger. Your exposure to it, Chase, where was your first time watching Saw?
Yeah, so okay, so around this time I was when my dad started, of course, we talked about it last week. My dad started kind of letting me watch horror, without me having to sneak it, and turn the channel when I hear them coming down the hallway. So it was around that time I was starting to let horror. He was starting to take me to horror films, R-rated horror films in the theater. I remember this coming out and I was interested, but I was also a little bit kind of like, okay, let's hold off, because I kept like reading all these reviews and stuff online. People are like, oh, this is so extreme. This is so gory. This is like so nasty. I ended up renting it when it came out and I was like, oh, this isn't bad. This is actually a really good movie. So I actually got to see the second one in theaters. So actually my first time seeing the first one in theaters was actually just a few months ago when they re-released it for this 20th anniversary. So that was like, one of these things I've only watched it at home. So finally getting to see, after 20 years, finally getting to sit down and watch it in a theater was really such an awesome experience. And you're right, it really did kind of change that kind of horror. Like you said, there's before Saw, after Saw. Because again, the year prior, we got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, which kind of also changed the game to where
gritty
kind of gritty, extreme brutality and gore was being shown on screen. Actually, funny enough, in 2003, the Saw short film came out, which it was based off of.
I've never seen this short.
So if you get the Saw 20th anniversary box sets, which has all 10 films, on the original film's Blu-ray, there's a special feature. I'm just going to open up and show you how it's. So on the original film's Blu-ray, there's a special feature that says the short film. It is essentially Amanda's scene, but Leigh Whannell playing Amanda's role.
Interesting. And Lee's the writer, right? I mean, he goes on to write like most of these movies later.
Right. And it's funny because him and Leigh Whannell and James Wan, of course, both of them have went on to do great things over the years. We had Leigh Whannell do The Invisible Man, and just recently, a few months ago, Wolfman. James Wan has become a powerhouse in the world of Hollywood. Of course, he's done other stuff. Like most recently, he did the Aquaman movies, which were these $100+ million budget superhero films. And here he started out.
Lee wrote it. Lee wrote the first one.
Yep. And it's funny because those two went on to write together and work on together Conjuring and Insidious. And it's kind of neat that three of the big franchises that are kind of big for like my generation, Insidious, Saw, Conjuring, all started by those guys. So they really had kind of an influence on the horror genre and how it's shaped up over these last 20 years.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, he's become such a powerhouse. It's kind of it's almost like a gate. You cannot get to Blumhouse world if you don't go through James Wan at some point. And I mean, by all accounts, I hear he's a nice guy, but it's just like they have become the content creators of horror for the past 10 years. It's wild. And starting with that first Saw film, as mentioned, you have a great cast. I mean, you have Leigh Whannell obviously is one of the characters, and then Carrie. You pronounced his name correctly. I will not. Carrie Elwes. How do you say it? Elwes. Carrie Elwes.
Danny Glover.
Yeah, Danny Glover. Like
Danny Glover. Crazy.
Yeah. He was way too old for this shit. He was Monica Potter, obviously. Cary Elwes is one of my favorites. He's always so good in everything he does. Obviously, The Princess Bride is just a favorite of anybody. Like, I don't know anybody who's like, Princess Bride, boo. Everybody's like, yeah, that's a good movie. Why not?
Yeah. If I'm somebody who didn't like that movie, I would no longer want to know that person. I would walk away from that person. Yeah.
Come on, Fred Savage. Phenomenal movie. Jesse, when did you get into Saw, since you are now recreating this in musical format? Did you
You're now Dr. Gordon.
Yeah.
Dr. Lawrence Gordon.
Were you a
Sturgeon
fan of
and
the movie
Sylvester
before you
Stallone.
even got this role?
Oh God, yeah, dude. I mean, I honestly can't remember when I came into it. I know that it was after, maybe it might have been even been after like 2 or 3. Because I used to be a douche. Let's be honest. I used to be a bit of a douchebag. Still am. And but I used to be a douchebag about like movies, and I want my movies to be proper and good and all that stuff. And so I was like, I'd heard all this stuff about Saw, where I was like, okay, that's it, torture porn, not for me. I stayed away from Hostel, all that dumb, I loved Hostel, by the way. But so I stayed away from all that, and then I came to it, and I was pissed because I'd spent like 3 or 4 years away from this franchise, and that first movie, I actually think that it's a disservice to the Saw franchise because it did kind of become a torture porn thingy. But like the first movie, you don't have to describe that as torture porn. There's a lot of grisly death in it, but that movie was just a phenomenal fucking movie. Like that was that twist at the end, and just the entire ending. I honestly don't know if I can think of a better ending to a movie except for maybe Talk to Me or Blair Witch. Like those 3 are probably my favorite. Oh, I actually really love the ending of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. Him just running through the streets is crazy.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it is the twist is Sixth Sense level good.
Mhm.
It obviously it's going to get sequels, and it just amazes me that it got so many sequels, especially when. But here's the thing. I'm going to be very blunt and honest. The later sequels aren't good, but they deliver on what the audience wants, and the audience showed up. So they kept making the movies, arguably until probably Saw X. They kept getting progressively worse, but the audience kept coming progressively more because it's Halloween, time for a Saw movie. Everyone came to the theater for it, whether it was good or not. Everybody was screaming at the screen, freaking out, and it made crazy money.
Well, and the thing is too, like the first one came out my freshman year of high school, so it was like each year of high school, it was kind of like known. October, okay, new Saw movie, and like you said, they ran annually from 2004 to 2010. The first 7
films in 7
every
years.
year around like the second to last week of October. It was like, okay, time for a new Saw movie. And like you said, a lot of them kind of gradually get worse. Then you get to like Saw 6, which is like in the Saw fandom, like usually in people's top of their list, because again, that was a really popular one. But unfortunately, that one didn't do too hot at the box office. They're like, okay, we're going to end it. But they kind of made it clear with Saw 3D, this isn't the end, but it's just the end for now. And then, like, again, you get Jigsaw, you get Spiral, then you get Saw X, which really rejuvenated the franchise. But
unfortunately, just a little too late.
And okay, can I tell a story, Aaron?
Yeah, man.
Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a very glimpse of kind of our process behind the scenes here. Aaron and I actually, what we do is we usually plan a lot of our shows well in advance, most of the time. And we were kind of beginning of the year kind of discussing, and we kind of said, September, this was when Saw 11 was still on the release calendar.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we were like, because a lot of stuff too, we like to kind of coincide certain franchises or topics around the time there's like an opening weekend for like a new franchise horror movie or an anniversary. And we're like, you know what? Let's do a Saw when Saw 11 opening weekend comes out. And well,
unfortunately, indefinitely. But I want somebody to give me a Saw 11 poster, because the posters were crazy creative, right? Like I want to see if they got like 4 fingers, because like if you look at the box sets and the things like that, the Saw 1 is a leg, Saw 2 is the finger, Saw 3 is these 3 teeth on wires. It's like, oh my gosh, they keep getting crazier and crazier with how they did it. The Saw 6 is the bear trap with wires coming off of it, making it a 6. Why am I describing it when I can just show you?
Oh, like Saw X is the eyeball trap.
Yeah,
with the goggles, with the tubes. That
tubes
we're supposed to suck the guy.
Yeah.
I love how they do the numbers in the posters. I wanted to see how they were going to do what they were going to do for 11. They were going to get really creative. But alas, we will not know for now. Who knows? I mean, it's so hard to get anything made right now. I don't think people understand or appreciate how hard it is to get a movie off the ground. When you have a slam dunk, you literally have to go make the movie by yourself and hope somebody wants to buy it from you. That's how weird it is right now. I don't want to get too far away from that. Like, I could go on a tangent for a day about that, but Saw 2 comes out, and that's the first one that I get to see in theaters in its entirety. And I loved this movie for one specific reason: the Pit of Needles.
Needles. I knew it. I knew you were going to say the Pit of Needles. Yep.
It was so visceral for me because I don't like who likes needles. I don't know anybody who's like, yeah, let's get poked, but I get squirmy. And this had me squirming so hard. And on the DVD, there's a great special. This has one of the best behind the scenes because it goes through every trap of that entire movie. And they're like, the Pit of Needles is literally really thick fishing wire. And then they put a couple of them stuck in them. And I was like, it's so effective. It's so gross. It is, man, the Pit of Needles. So gnarly. Fan of Saw 2?
Oh, that's actually my favorite.
Yeah.
Out of the Saw franchise. It's the first one I got to see in theaters. And Jesse, you made a great point earlier when talking about the original Saw. You know, a lot of people like to write it off as torture porn. Where really the first film isn't really kind of torture porn in itself. It's a very low. I mean, yeah, there are some grisly scenes, but it's very much an indie, low budget kind of detective thriller horror film.
Yeah,
where you kind of delve kind of a little bit into the torture porn side of it with Saw 2, because again, you get to see more of the graphic kills, especially the Venus flytrap. Trap where the guy has a key that unlocks the trap off of around his head. It's like sewn into his eye. He has to dig it in his eye, and if it doesn't, like, within a certain amount of time, the trap just impales him with the spikes inside. The needle scene, a lot of these scenes, you get a lot of these real gory kills in this one, but this one also has an amazing twist. I mean, it's a 20-year-old movie, might as well. The only survivor, a woman who is revealed to be the only survivor in Saw, and out of when the Saw traps in the first one, played by Shawnee Smith, named Amanda, is back for this one. Turns out because again, John Kramer is dying with cancer. He doesn't have much longer, but he wants his work to continue. Amanda's the new Jigsaw. She's his apprentice. She's going to be the one who takes over the Jigsaw mantle when he passes.
Now,
and
if
just
y'all
that
don't know
reveal at the end
who Shawnee Smith is, you need to go back and watch the Blob remake, because the Blob remake from the 80s, she's the cheerleader in that movie, and she's phenomenal. And she went on to be like a main star in this series, crushing it. The Blob remake is one of my all-time favorite movies, and to see her rocking really in these movies is awesome as well. This has a couple good kills: the needle pit, the razor box. Like, they're all pretty great.
Are we going to gloss over her and Becker starring?
That's what I was. That's okay. I'm so happy you mentioned that. That's what I was going to say, because I used to watch Becker, and she was kind of the silly receptionist. Mm-hmm. I loved her in Becker.
I loved her in Becker, dude. I loved her. What I was gonna say about, just back to the torture porn real fast, was like, I feel like what ended up happening with the Saw franchise, because you said it, Aaron, and I think you're 100% right. Like, I actually do put the twist on the first movie at the same level that I would put the Sixth Sense twist. Like, it's one of the best twists that I can think of. And because of the fact that it became such a torture porn thing, people don't really talk about that. And that's what kind of made me mad when I went back and realized it. And so, like, I feel like Saw, it became a Final Destination situation. You know what I mean? Where, like, nobody's watching Final Destination for the plots. They're watching Final Destination for every single one of the death scenes. And that's how it Saw, at least for me, became, until again, Jigsaw, when it became like, now we're back in business, baby. I thought Saw 10 was incredible. But yes,
and it is one of those things too, again, like you said, the twist, where a lot of people write Saw off as a torture porn. Especially the first two have amazing twists. Like, I was so shocked when 15-year-old me was so shocked watching the first one at home and seeing that was 20 years later, just a few months ago, when I got to see it in theaters when they re-released it. I've seen this movie hundreds of times. I got fucking goosebumps like at the end of twist,
right?
And I knew that was coming. It was just seeing it on the big screen. And even now watching Saw 2, the twist at the end is phenomenal. And I think you're right. It's kind of like each one, they were kind of like, oh, people are just coming to see people get murdered. And it was kind of like they were trying to outdo themselves each one. And it just kind of got over the top and a little ridiculous.
And you have to think about how you write something too. Saw 1, they had a great plot that worked up to this great moment. The other ones, they literally go, ideas for traps, guys. I got this trap. I got a furnace trap. I got this trap. We love these traps. How do we write the story to connect the traps? That's not how you write a good movie.
100%.
Period.
100%.
You need to write a good movie and then fit the traps into that. But they literally came up with I guarantee you came up with great trap ideas and tried to connect the dots, which then has your characters being dragged to the trap as opposed to your characters discovering the trap. And that's a problem with all mysteries, things like that. If your characters are not discovering it with the audience and they're being dragged to it, you can feel it in a movie. A classic example of this is a lot of Michael Bay movies. The Michael Bay Ninja Turtles, they're somehow skiing down a mountain. I don't know how they found snow. I don't know. But the whole thing, you're in your head, you're like, they literally had this idea that like, would it be cool if the turtles like sledded down a snow mountain on their shells? And like, yes, how do we get there? And like, doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. All these movies are full of, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. But they don't. They try to make them more and more confusing because when you get into 3 through 6, it is the most convoluted cop plot you've ever seen. It's like cop betrays doctor. The FBI show. You're like, wait, what? Huh? Doing the research for this got so confusing. Who's double crossing who?
Deadbeat James really put it the best. He said, really, it becomes kind of like a soap opera storytelling where it's like such twists, people betraying each other. You know, there's a Jigsaw apprentice, but there's a secret Jigsaw apprentice. I'm watching Dot Jigsaw apprentice. Like that's actually just keeping check on the other Jigsaw apprentice. Somehow John Kramer's widow is involved in there and she's kind of keeping an eye too. And, and
she's not involved, and then suddenly she is involved.
Surprise.
John Kramer's also been sneaking around, leaving old school cassette tapes everywhere, like fucking everywhere. The second this guy found out he was dying, he's like, instead of like, I better start eating healthy and I better start like changing my diet and getting on a workout regime so I can beat chemo, he's like, no, I need to buy 900 tape recorders and little cassettes and start swallowing some of them and placing them all over the place. Like that plan is out of control.
I need rusty gears, spikes.
and they're like, John, it actually turns out that you were misdiagnosed. You could have beaten this thing a lot sooner. And he's like, no, I'm too busy taking apart all these tiny bicycles. I need to build a puppet. They're like, that was he must have been working on that so hard for so long. Instead of going to chemo and like even maybe attempting to beat this cancer rap, he's like, he was also going through a tragedy. His unborn baby died. It's a whole thing. He never ages. He just keeps making traps. Before I forget the analogy, I want to make the analogy to the idea of torture porn is like, it's like Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath didn't consider themselves heavy metal, but they are the prototype that became that genre. Saw was not torture porn, but it was the prototype. The later installments became that, but what Hostel did, what all the predecessors that were trying to rip off Saw became is where that genre became. And then when Saw came back to be like, no, I started this shit, I'm going to claim that crown, it became the torture porn genre, even if the first one wasn't. So that's my heavy metal analogy. Yeah.
I just want to piggyback on that and say that to the analogy part there, just the fact that Saw was such a phenomenal movie. I have never really dove into too much heavy metal stuff, but I have a buddy who really loves it. And so whenever he and I are hanging out, he always shows me the drummer, first of all, the musicianship across the board is insane in a heavy metal band. But the drummers are fucking crazy, dude. They are so good. They're double pedal or whatever. It's insane. Insane.
So Saw 3, 2006 comes out. This is my favorite one. I love Saw 2 so much, but Saw 3 is where it like really became like bonkers, and the traps we get. My favorite trap of the whole franchise is called the Angel Trap, and one of our detectives has these like claws in her ribs, and she has to put her hand in a vat of acid, and it doesn't matter because the spring trap goes boing and rips her guts out. So gross. See,
this one actually also has my favorite trap, but a different trap.
What is it?
The twisting crucifix.
Oh,
yeah. I forgot about that.
Universal Horror Nights would do a Saw haunted house, and they'd pump in the smell of rotting meat, which like you were gagging through the whole thing. It was so gross. But like the twisting crucifix, there's like they had a guy and his head would spin around. It was really great.
That's awesome. Was this I'm hoping I'm not jumping the gun here on a spoiler, but was this where we learned that Amanda was making them so they couldn't be? Is that this one?
Mm-hmm. She was the bad apprentice. She was being bad. And he was pissed about that. And in one of the later ones gets his revenge. But yeah, so for people who are like, wait a second. So it creates this bizarre clause of deniability where people who are pointing out like, wait, you couldn't actually escape from that. They're like, oh, well, that wasn't actually Jigsaw doing that. It was his apprentice.
Amanda.
Yeah, who didn't care. So wild. But I just love this one. This is where it does start to get super complicated. But at the end of the day, like I was here for it. After this is where I start to fall off and get kind of disillusioned with the whole thing. But this had a plan. It had gross, just the gnarliest of traps, the biggest budget by far. And it also just skyrocketed the box office for these films. Like 3, 4, 5, and 6 were just mega hits.
So if you want to talk about Saw, to me, it goes into different chapters.
Okay.
So of trilogies. So 1 through 3, I consider the John Kramer and Amanda trilogy. Of course, their story wraps up at the end of 3 with the death of Amanda and John Kramer. 4 is kind of a transitional period. You know, it's just the ending of the Kramer Amanda story arc, and it's starting to, in the very end, it begins the Hoffman trilogy, which is 5 through 7. Then you kind of get this other trilogy that I call it the random trilogy. I just nickname it that. So you get Jigsaw, which is kind of like a soft reboot of the franchise. You get Spiral, which is kind of like a police procedural spinoff, and then you get Saw X, which is another one that also focuses on John and Amanda, but it takes place into timeline between 1 and 2.
So 1, 2, and X can be watched together and still be a complete story.
So you could watch 1, X, and 2 and to be a complete story.
Interesting. I mean, I guess 3 too, because it ends with him dying, which is, I mean, and like you said, that kind of 3 does sort of end John's story, but 4, 5, and 6 and 7, he keeps appearing in flashbacks. Which is
which even then, John isn't really the main character of the Saw films, because again, it's so soap opera. Like it's just like we said, like, oh, there's this detective, then there's this detective, then there's this apprentice portraying this apprentice. Where the first Saw, he just appears at the end. Of course, he's the dead body, you know, laying on the floor, and then it pops up like, oh, I was watching you guys the whole time. And then 2, you kind of get a mix mash of like a police procedural, then like the detective played by Donnie Wahlberg and John Kramer talking, and then the trap, and then it's like 3, it's kind of like police procedural, the Jeff kind of overcoming, and then also some Amanda and John and doctor trying to work on the brain tumor. And then again, like 4, 5, 6, 7. And Jigsaw, he's just in flashbacks, where Saw X, you don't get John Kramer as the main character until Saw X. And that's really where you see what Tobin Bell can do as an actor.
Saw X, I thought, was phenomenal. I thought Saw X was incredibly good. Also, just to throw Donnie some love. I also want to throw Donnie and James a little bit of love. Brief tangent. Dead Silence. You guys remember the movie Dead Silence?
Yeah.
Yes. I loved that movie. I fucking loved that movie. Donnie,
I'm gonna have to check that out again because I haven't seen that since high school.
That's the one with the ventriloquist dummies, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it was like I think it
Doesn't
was
Billy the Puppet make a cameo in it?
Yes. I think it was James Wan's second one after this. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it was. That movie scared the living shit out of me when I was younger.
Before we get away from Saw 3, it also has another trap that just makes me so squeamish, and it's the pig slop trap. I was like, that one gets me gagging every time. Tobin Bell really does. I think there is strength in him being kept in the shadows because it makes him so terrifying when you finally meet him. Like up until this point, it's been a puppet. You see the creepy pig mask creatures. And then when you finally meet him and he's this frail old man, but you know what he's done, it makes him so terrifying. And I always caution to expose the Mr. Wizard, the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain too much. But they actually did a great job because by the time we get to Saw 10, like, you've earned it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like way I can compare it to. It's like when there's been a serial killer out on the loose for decades. And then when they finally get him, he's like a 75, 80-year-old man on oxygen. He's all frail. He's probably, just not to be grim, probably going to die in the next few years. But there's something about it that's so scary to see this frail old man, just like seeing courtroom pictures and just knowing some of the heinous, terrible things that person has done. And that's where I kind of compared John Kramer to.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's very Hannibal Lecter in that sense.
Yeah. I don't know why this is reminding me of it, but the BTK killer who, the reason they ended up catching him was because he didn't know how to clean a disc.
He didn't know how to use a floppy disk.
After years.
Just because it's the most boomer move ever.
How do I send a PDF?
How do I send a PDF? BTK killer.
just crazy. When we get into like you said, after this starts a new era. Saw 4, it's kind of like the Nightmare on Elm Street 5, where it's like not him, but somebody he's coercing into all of this. We get our new detective, who they're following, and he's kind of being forced into all this situation. Starts out with this like crazy mausoleum trap. There's a scalping seat, which is a great scene in this movie. The drawn quartering bedroom traps. They're all interesting. The traps are pretty cool, but we just don't have the same character because you're like, who's this new guy? I don't care about him. And they're like, yeah, but he's being forced to it. And you're like, yeah, I guess I just want to see these guys die. You're like,
it's kind of that trend. Like I said, that transitional period. Cause of course, at the end of Saw 3, Amanda dies, John dies. So you get this transitional period, and the whole build up till the end of the movie is who's this new Jigsaw? Who's putting these traps together now that they're both dead? Who's going to take over John's legacy? Of course, it's a detective that we meet very briefly in Saw 3, Detective Hoffman, who is kind of known to being a corrupt cop. But John tries to rehabilitate him and like, hey, I see potential in you. You could be me. Like,
yeah, they and he becomes kind of the main guy for the next few movies. We do get to see like the birth of Jigsaw here. Like in this movie, they kind of do a flashback and show him do his first trap, give his first spiel, kidnap the man who killed his unborn child and attacked his wife. And that scene's gnarly. The knife chair, it's like gotta like push through the knives, and then the guy breaks the chair because John's not good at being Jigsaw yet, and falls into a crib full of barbed wire.
He just bleeds out.
Yeah, a lot of barbed wire in these movies. Gross.
There's a lot of barbed wire in these movies.
But I think this is the last one that I kind of like. I don't know. From here on out, it gets it. Like you said, you like 6, and I think you could convince me at 6 is a return. But like 3, 4, and 5 are kind of just a mess to me. I couldn't tell you any of the plot. I just could tell you a couple of the traps. And that's. But again, what are you here for? And I think the audiences spoke very loudly. Like, we just want to see weird traps. We don't care. Since you're the expert, Chase, like, where do we go from here after 4? Like 4, 5, and 6. What are the redeeming values, and what makes 6 one of your favorites?
To me, I mean, I could sit back and watch 5. It's not my favorite. It's actually in my bottom 3 on my list on Letterboxd. It's very forgettable because again, it's mostly that's when it kind of the plot gets a little bit too convoluted. Because it's like, oh, there's this FBI agent who's after Strom, who's after FBI agent Strom, but he's after Mark Hoffman, but Hoffman's in the background framing Strom and then also planning his death at the same time. And that's where it's like twist on twist on twist on twist on twist. To me, Saw X kind of scales it back slightly. So this was like, of course, he kills Strom at the end. He had just, at the end of Saw 5, he just framed him. So this one, you get to see what he's like as Jigsaw, and you get to learn he sucks at it. Like, he's not good at covering his tracks. You know, he's clumsy, he's careless, he's arrogant. And that's the thing where John Kramer was more calculated, more menacing. Kind of everything that he did was thought out from beginning to the end, to the aftermath. And then plus you get the subplot of he's going after this insurance company CEO who screwed him over. And it was also a very topical talking point at that time, because again, that was, so this Saw
still
6 came out 16 years later. And so Saw 6 came out in 2009, and it was immediately after the 2008 financial crisis and recession. That delved into that. Saw 10, Saw 6, damn it. Saw 6 delved into that. It also delved into the kind of healthcare debate where people are like, look, we're paying too much for our healthcare. Like, we're swimming in debt because of our hospital bills, and half the time y'all won't fucking cover it. So it was like really kind of brought these talking points into a Saw movie. And it came out around the time where I was kind of getting in that conversation. Because again, 2008 was the very first election I could vote in. So like me experiencing these kind of like talking points, it was kind of like my transitional period where I was going from being just a teenager, just kind of living life carefree. And now I'm an adult, and I'm kind of like listening to these things that are now going to affect me in my future as an adult.
Well, I kind of think one of the things that, and I can't remember Hoffman too well, but back to the Amanda just kind of killing people and going away from, like, I think that's one of the reasons that Jigsaw stuck so much, because yes, he was calculating, yes, he was careful, but he also had a very moralistic reason he was doing it. And I think that was one of the things that people latched onto in the short film, because in the short film, you know that he's trying to make this person decide between death or truly appreciating your life. You know what I mean? And I think that was one of the things that they kind of got away from a little bit. And I think they brought it back when they brought in X, I think, is when that's the one where they really show him going through cancer.
Right,
they really put Tobin Bell front and center. It kind of brings it back to, oh, there actually was a purpose to all of these deaths and traps and killings and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Well, and it was like, are you willing to go through pain and put in the work to save your life? But a lot of these, like in part 6, like the Oxygen Crusher, it's 2 people against each other. One of them's going to die. They can't, like, their hard work doesn't resolve any of the issues. It doesn't teach you a lesson. It doesn't give you the opportunity to save your life, to redeem yourself. It's all about, it's a dark redemption concept. And later they were just like, y'all gonna die, like forcing the guy to pick who's gonna hang on the traps, on the trap doors. They got 3 bodies lined up and they got to pick who's gonna drop. Like, there's no redemption to that. And I think that while 6, I think, was a better crafted movie, like all the kills and stuff are very creepy, and the characters, I think their choices are more drastic. The steam maze, gnarly, the shotgun carousel. Again, Russian roulette is not a choice.
Yes,
it's a random thing that happens. But I think it makes for a better movie. But it has gotten. We are now at the polar opposite of what Jigsaw. But again, they can just be like, well, that's Hoffman's choice. Jigsaw didn't do that. they can just blame it on that other guy.
And this also was kind of, because again, Saw 6 underperformed at the box office.
Did it?
So I think it was around. Oh yeah, it did. It was around the time that I think a lot of people were kind of, because again, I consider the 2000s era of horror from, I would say 2000. We talked about it before on a remake episode. 2003, which kind of started with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. And around that time in 2009, people were kind of getting tired of always either just getting torture porn or remakes.
Yeah.
Around the time Saw 6 came out, so around the same time was Paranormal Activity, which kind of brought on this new wave of very low budget found footage horror films. And it came around at the same time. And because of that, Saw 6's box office suffered. Because again, Paranormal Activity, the first one was just this phenomenon where, it was this horror film that was made for like $6,000, and it got picked up by Blumhouse, and he just went all in on it, and at one point was the most profitable film ever made. So it's just one of those things, it just kind of like the end of the era, which is why the next year we got Saw 3D, which was kind of labeled as the final chapter. And it was kind of like, but they were kind of open about it. They're like, yeah, it's the final one for now. They said we might go back in a few years and revisit it, which they did. But yeah, it's just kind of disappointing because again, this Saw 6 is one of the strongest ones. And it's just a shame because I felt like it didn't get the appreciation that it deserved at the time.
Yeah.
When we get to, Saw 3D, I can't believe it took them this long to get to 3D. So I actually got to work one day on Saw 3D.
What?
Well, so I'm like, it's when did this happen? So they hired the company I was working for to do a piece of the intro, and they this is 2010, right? Yeah. So the company I was working for was making 3D rigs. They hired them to go out and do work on the opening sequence, which is the title sequence, not even like a trap, but the title sequence, 3D coming at you. The company I work for was bullshit. So they show up and immediately shat the bed. And I'm just a helper. I'm a PA basically. And I'm just watching them shit the bed. My boss just leaves because he's like, oh, I don't want to be around to get yelled at. So me and the technician who was supposed to know how to fix this thing is just getting reamed out. And I'm like, I'm just a PA. I don't know what to tell you, man. So they got fired off the day, and it was just a disaster. It was so embarrassing. One of the most embarrassing days of my life, where you're just like, you can just feel everyone just angry and they want to be mad at somebody, and you're like, I can put it back in the van and I can take it out of the van. I don't know how to fix this. You need to talk to the guy who ran off because he's a coward.
Now, I have a question for both of you. I'll let you start, Jesse. What's your thoughts on Saw 3D? Before I give mine, what's your thoughts on Saw 3D?
I honestly don't. The only thing I remember from Saw 3D was I saw it in theaters. I was never a huge fan of the gimmicky 3Ds. I did love Piranha 3D. I thought Piranha 3D was very fun. But the only thing I remember is the box outside where everybody was watching. There was the glass cage where everybody was watching. What did that end up being? That was two people against each other, right? Or was it one person?
Oh, no, that was two people against each other. And like, I think they were both sleeping with the same girl and she was playing them. So they're like, oh, who's going to win? Or you both could decide, hey, she's playing us both, and just let her get dropped down on this like buzzsaw. And I think they tried, and then they're like, fuck her. Let's just, she's playing us both. And then she just ends up getting dropped down on like a buzzsaw. It's so ridiculous. And it's like in the like middle of the city in this like large glass box. Is like, how did he go in and like construct this?
100%. When did he get the time where nobody else was around?
Where's your installation? This also takes like 20 people. This is not a one man and we know he had helpers, but like I bet you it took 9 people to set that up to make the movie version of it. How did maybe 3 people do it? And not have somebody be like, what are you doing with those buzzsaws? What are you doing out here? Like, if I go out and start messing around in the mall, a security guard's walking, like, if I just sit there and do nothing long enough, a security guard's like, hey buddy, what you doing? Like, if you were installing an installation, like somebody's going to come talk to you.
Hey man, what are you doing with all those buzzsaws and those 3 passed out people?
There are 3 bodies in here. What is this guy?
I want to see the behind the scenes where like the security guard's like, hey, they told me they were setting up like Santa's sleigh. It's going to be great. You're like, what do you think they were doing?
You just see Hoffman like carrying like a crate on a string going, oh, God damn it. Like putting up glass.
You would literally have to bring it off a truck built in Toto. Like it would have to have been just a drop it and leave it thing. And then people are like, my favorite in this is the lawnmower trap, just because I hate lawnmowers. So for those of you who haven't heard the story, I cut off part of my toe with a lawnmower when I was in high school. So I don't like lawnmowers.
Were you able to watch Sinister? Were you able to get through Sinister?
Yeah. I mean, it was rough.
That's brutal.
Rough. Yeah, real rough. But I have one big toe that's a little stubby. The lawnmower trap was gnarly. I loved that was my favorite part of this movie though. But it's largely forgettable. None of the characters matter.
Again, it's like you get introduced to a bunch of random ass characters. I think the only 2 characters you've seen, and again, this is supposed to be the final chapter. This is supposed to conclude the previous 6 movies, the story that we've been getting. Like this is supposed to be its Avengers Endgame. Like, and then like you're introducing new characters to us who are the focal point, and then Hoffman just going around just murdering people. Like,
well, where was Chase? A question for you. Because back in 2 or 3 when they had sewed in the eye, that was Gordon, right? And
that was Gordon. So that's another thing it's revealed, that Dr. Gordon was in on it all along. Like he did more of the scientific stuff, like the scene in Saw 4 where like the guy has his lips sewn shut and the other guy has his eyeballs sewn shut, the eye thing. So a lot of the more medical stuff was done by Gordon. Where I guess like is
he helping Hoffman at that point, or is he helping Amanda at that point? Yeah, who knows? There's a moment in Saw the Musical where I find a key, and so Adam's like, pass me the key, and I throw it and it hits him like right in the face. He's like, oh, you almost put that in my eye. And I'm just like, oh, that'd be cool.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a nice 7-year hiatus after this before we got to Jigsaw, which is 2017. I saw this in theaters. I got to go back and finally see another, because I didn't watch any of these other ones other than Saw 2 in the theater. I would wait till they came out just so I could watch them at home, so I could be like, gross. I actually liked this movie just because it delivered on what I expected it to do. I don't think it's a great entry into like the franchise. It's not building on much, but it did bring us back to some cool traps and getting to see it. I was just kind of like, well, for the afternoon, what I came to see, I want to see some people die gnarly. Yeah, it did its job. So I wasn't mad at it, but I could see in the scheme of what they're, the bigger picture. It has my least favorite trap in here, which is laser collars, because that just seemed silly. Zoing, zoing, zoing. Like, yeah. Where are you getting these lasers, man? Like to run a laser, like when you see a laser, and if you look up like laser tests and stuff in laboratories, a laser's like this big, it shoots out the laser. That's appropriate. What it's hooked up to is an entire room of power and computers and a Hadron Collider. You need a lot of equipment to have a laser, and he's got like 12 of them on each person's collar. The entire grid would just be going.
I'm sure you also would need a permit for that too, like some kind of like.
Yeah. I also, because like also lasers are infinite. So like when all the lasers are shooting up, cutting people's heads, your entire room is getting like if it's strong enough to cut flesh, you're slicing. Like it was, I don't know. Like I just was like, this is some Dark Side of the Moon fantasy bullshit. I was not. The laser collars had me out, but the beginning when you got people with buckets on their head getting dragged into buzzsaws, I was like,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wait, who was the perpetrator in this one? I can't remember.
It's some guy that was a hospital, like he was an X-ray technician. He's the one that mixed up the test results, and turned out like John Kramer's cancer was curable, but because they waited too long, and it turned out, I guess. No, it's Logan. His name's Logan. He's also like a former Army vet, and like I guess he was like in the original bucket trap, and then like last minute John Kramer was like, "You don't deserve to die for a mistake," and just like unlocks him, and is like, "Okay, you're my new apprentice." And
yep. Halloran is the bad guy in this, so he's the one who's been doing all this shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's the crooked cop.
He's the crooked cop.
He's the crooked cop that gets the lasers. And becomes a Demogorgon.
Yep. Basically.
This one I did not see in theaters. Just because I heard a lot of people say it was bad. And when I watched it for the first time, when it came to VOD, I didn't like it either. Because again, it was one of those, I was trying to connect the dots with the previous 7 movies. Like, wait, this doesn't make sense because he's using a flat screen TV here, and that would have been really expensive in 2005. Or I was trying to connect the dots, but then I did a franchise rewatch before Saw X came out. And if you go in to watch Jigsaw, just turn your brain off and just look at it as like, okay, this is kind of like a reboot, a soft reboot of the franchise. It's not bad. I mean, it's entertaining. I had a decent time watching it.
I mean, it's better than Spiral.
I will admit I never actually saw Spiral. I did not. I opted out of watching Spiral.
I think most people did. I think people were not excited about the reboot, and which is kind of a bummer because I do think Chris Rock
he does.
I don't think he does a good job. He's not the worst part of this movie.
So this came about, which I'm surprised they did. Which originally they were planning on doing like a sequel to Jigsaw.
Yeah.
The writers, let me go to crew. Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger. They were going to do a sequel to Jigsaw because Jigsaw made a lot of money. But Chris Rock had pitched to Lionsgate a Saw spinoff because around this time he was wanting to do more drama work. Because again, everyone just knew him for his work in comedy. He was like, "Oh, I want to be taken seriously." And of course, later on, he would do like I think a season of Fargo, which I heard he was really good in. And so they basically Lionsgate and Twisted Pictures, because again, with all the other Saw movies, you don't get like big name actors in it. They're just kind of like like Cary Elwes, who hadn't really done much in a long time to that point when the first one came out, or actors who had just like had like little parts of TV shows here and there, where like Chris Rock is an actual star. So they pretty much Lionsgate Twisted Pictures told the writers, "Hey, scrap that, do what Chris Rock wants." And I mean, yeah, it is kind of neat. It is more polished than the other ones, because again, with Saw, with the other previous films, you get like a green bluish hue to the to every scene. It's a lot of like shaky cam and like flash cuts. This one, it's more of like you get more warm colors, like a lot of reds and yellows and oranges. You get a lot of like one take shots where it's just following them, a lot more fluid movement. So I will say at least they tried something different. And plus you get two big stars like Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson in a Saw movie. Like,
well, and I like the back and forth between them. Like, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay off, but I think this is a movie that has a lot of great concepts and no payoff, because I don't know whose problem this was. I don't know if the writer or the studio was like, we don't want to make any decisions that affect the Saw franchise plot, because that's precious. So I don't know, but it always feels like it never goes to where they want it to go, and it's trying so hard to elevate the Saw story, but doesn't know how to get there for some reason. So it's got a lot of effort and not the payoff that it wants to have. But I mean, the hot wax trap is great. I like the tongue trap, squirm inducing, guy hanging from his tongue about to get hit by a train. That's gross. There's a lot of gross stuff to it that worked.
There's also a lot of the traps here, because again, this isn't like anyone associated with Jigsaw. This is just a Jigsaw copycat killer.
Right.
They established that Jigsaw's been dead. John Kramer's been dead for years. Actually, this is the first one that has absolutely no involvement with John Kramer, whether it be a flashback scene. The most you get of John Kramer, like when they're like the detectives are going through pictures and you just get a picture of Tobin Bell, and that's literally Tobin Bell's only involvement. I will say I appreciate what they were trying to go for. This is very much a police procedural horror film, as opposed to like, and it follows just one narrative. It's just Chris Rock trying to figure out who's killing people in his police force who are corrupt cops, and they're also kind of going with the issue of police corruption, the blue wall of silence, police brutality. But this was filmed before the situation or the incident with George Floyd in May 2020 and the following events after. So it doesn't, but it came out a year later, but because of the pandemic, or they got pushed back a year, it doesn't feel like they're exploiting a hot topic where we've seen that before. Like where something will happen and all of a sudden Hollywood's like, oh, make a movie about this. Like, so yeah, it actually feels more grounded and real, like where the story first and the message second. So, I mean, I appreciate it, but yeah, overall the execution wasn't great.
Well, let's take it home, gentlemen. We've hit our limit, but we have one movie left, and I think we can get there. I think we can make it happen. Saw X, a return to form, a phenomenal entry into it, brought back everything full circle to see what made John Kramer want to become Jigsaw. Some of the best kills in the entire franchise, each one of them so gnarly. Eyeball thing, even though it's a dream, is terrifying. Chase, where do we start with Saw X? What's your favorite part of this? Tell me some.
I saw this I saw this in theaters 3 times.
Yeah, my dude.
Yeah, this one, it is a return to form, but it also feels more grounded than the other ones. I really love how you get more of Tobin Bell as John Kramer, because again, the biggest complaint among the Saw fandom, including myself, was you don't get a lot of Tobin Bell. He's your main antagonist of the entire franchise. He's what the entire franchise is about, but all you get of them are just flashback scenes, or just like scenes earlier on the previous 4 where he's like over, like kind of there, just, but also he's just a subplot. The other plots, like the trap stuff. This one also, I feel like it humanizes him a little bit more, because John Kramer and the other ones, let's be real, he's just very hypocritical. He's like, oh, I'm not a killer, but I'm gonna put you in this thing where you have to stick your whole arm through this bed of razor wires.
Yeah.
And if not, you're gonna get impaled from the asshole to head. Like, where this one, it humanizes him. It shows him that he's getting this promise. Oh, we're gonna cure your inoperable brain tumor, and turns out it was a scam. And it shows how upset he is, how he's feeling hopeless, and then he gets his revenge on the people that scammed him. And it's also very satisfying to see that. You get to see Tobin Bell give a powerhouse performance. You get a lot of Amanda. You get to see kind of some of the beginning of her conflict with John Kramer, and some scenes that do humanize her as well. I know we were supposed to get Saw 11, but you know what? And again, I know the Saw franchise isn't dead. It's going to come back. Hollywood's always going to bring back popular franchises that make money. But, if this is the end of that timeline where we get Tobin Bell as John Kramer Jigsaw, and it comes back a few years, I'm at peace with it. If we don't get another in that same storyline, that kind of timeline, I'm at peace with it. I think Saw X could serve as a perfect ending.
Jesse, what's your favorite part of Saw X? Did you get to see this in theaters?
I did see this one in theaters. I think that my two things. One, I think what you were talking about, Chase, I was actually talking about this with Kevin Greutert.
Greutert, yeah.
Yes, with his wife, where they had written this before Spiral came out, and then Chris Rock came and said he wanted to do something, and so that was when they kind of like pushed this off, and so this was kind of this had been being talked about for a while, and my first of all, the bone marrow scene is insane. But second, that's one of the most insane things I've ever seen. But the second thing I think that I liked about it was just, I really do think this was a return. One, I think it elevated the Saw films in the way that they wanted Spiral to. But they didn't do it with technique. They did it with story and humanization. And secondly, I think that it just was a return to form of where, again, John Kramer in the first one, the reason why the first one was so fucking crazy was because he still had a moralistic output. He was still trying, you know what I mean? And this entire movie was showing the human side of John Kramer. And I think that's great. I think that's great, because if you can have these crazy, crazy death scenes and still have a little bit of like, I mean, it's Breaking Bad, right? Like, he's out here almost killing kids, and you're still like, oh, Walter White, I still feel bad for you. You know what I mean? Like, it's that sort of a thing.
Right.
That's incredible storytelling.
They really, the script was so much better, and they also didn't make it as complicated. It seemed like they got to a point where they're like, we need as many traps as possible, killing as many people as possible, because in certain slasher movies like Friday the 13th, body count is important. But in the Saw films, body count is not important. It's how interesting are the traps. I'd rather see more Rube Goldberg take longer than it's not about quantity. It's about the quality. You know, it really is. Right. And this is a franchise that proves that. When you do it right, when I'm watching Jason slash people up, it is quantity. I want to see as many bodies as possible, because he's not creative. That's not the point of this. The creativity of Saw is what makes it interesting. And even though there's only like how many traps are in this one? 1, 2, 3,
There's
4,
only
5, 6,
I think there's only
8.
4. I think there's only 4 deaths. I think
In reality,
has 4 deaths in this movie.
Because
I think this has the smallest body count out of any of them, but it's one of the best.
Yeah.
Just because they prioritize story over body count.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The brain surgery. I mean, they're all just so crazy.
Oh, that's my favorite one.
So gnarly.
How many people actually die in the first one? I think we only see like 4 people die in the first one, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it didn't reveal Adam got killed, I think, until the 3rd one. And that wasn't because of the trap. That was because Amanda Mercy killed him.
Yeah.
Six people. It says 6 in Saw 1. 6 people die, as well as 6 victims in the nerve gas house.
Danny Glover, his detective partner, the guy in the razor wire trap.
Even less people. 6 people die in the first one. 4 people die in Saw X.
Wow.
It's so but it just goes to show it's not. If you do it right, you don't need a high body count. But I think the other movies were like, I think the other movies were also kind of like, well, we're too confusing with the plot, so we better throw some more traps in. Call it a day. Guys, we did it. We got through all 10 Saw films in the span of just a little over an hour. Let's do some plugs.
Dr. Gordon himself. We did it with Dr. Gordon.
Jesse, tell people where they can follow you. Tell them where they can see Saw the Musical.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see it at Hudson Theaters, which is right there in West Hollywood. It is playing now through December 31st. Come on Monday if you want to see me. Come on Sunday if you want to see the wonderful Reagan. And the guy who plays Jack and the girl who plays both Amanda and Billy she's incredible. He's incredible. It's a really, really great cast. There's literally only 3 of us on stage at any given point.
What was the name of the show, the theater again?
Hudson Theaters. Come and get in the splash zone. I'll give you a little pro tip. So there's a splash zone on the left. That's the one that you pay for. There's actually a little bit of splash on the right too. So if you don't want to do the heavy hitter seats on the left, you can get still a little bit splashed on the right if you go into the front row there. And then you can find me at Jesse's in Towns on Instagram, and come see me. I'll tell you what, come see me saw my leg off and also dance around with the blow up doll. There's a lot of sex in this thing. So.
It's a parody.
It's a parody, baby. It's a parody.
Love it. And that we appreciate you coming on and talking to us, man.
Yes,
really fun.
yes.
Always a pleasure to have you. We got to get you back.
Thank you so much.
Anytime, man.
Always a blast.
Bloodcoin word, Jigsaw, guys. It's so easy. So if you go to Discord, you open up a ticket, Block of Horror Discord, and you say Jigsaw, you're going to get some Bloodcoin for the Block of Horror. Chase, plugs, man. What do you got going on?
Yeah. First of all, Jesse, thank you so much for coming. This was an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you so much,
talking about one of my favorite horror franchises with both of you. This has been one of my favorite episodes we've done so far. So yeah, of course you can see me here every Saturday with Aaron on Half Hour of Horror. You can follow me at Oh Hey It's Chase on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, Instagram, X, and you can follow me on TikTok at Oh Hey It's Chase _.
You follow me. I'm on some of the socials at McLean and Abel, and of course my other show, Launchpad Pod. Appreciate y'all guys turning out. Is so awesome to talk horror with all the fans, and of course Block of Horror, all the things there, and continue the conversation on the Discord. We've been keeping a Letterboxd list, but it's just the 10 Saw movies. We didn't get crazy with it. So go watch some Saw, and as usual, guys, we will see you next week on the Half Hour of Horror.
Bye, guys. Thank you.